Rose, let's start the meeting for today.
All right, roll call for the City Council meeting of Wednesday, June 17th, 2015 at 7:30 p.m. Mr. Brennan, Mrs. Haran-Kunso is absent, and Mr. Jones is absent. Mr. Kwiatkowski, Mr. Mirsky, Mr. Winarski, Mr. Witherspoon. Please rise for a moment of silent meditation and Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval of minutes from the meeting of Wednesday, June 3rd, 2015, and bills for payment on June 19th and 26th, 2015. Mr. Kwiatkowski, Mr. Mirsky, Mr. Winarski, Mr. Witherspoon, Mr. Brennan.
Before we go on to request for repository sales, we have a presentation by Councilman Winarski.
Good evening, everyone. If I could please have the Mercyhurst University baseball coach, Joe Spano, and his staff, as well as the players that are in the audience, come up here, please. Hello, Coach. How are you? Good to see you. Hello. How are you? Hi. How you doing? Come on up here, please. Tonight, myself as well as our city council members would like to present the Mercyhurst University baseball team a recognition and honor tonight for their accomplishments, not only this year but in the years past, with Coach Spano, who's been with them 16 years and has a great record, the winningest record at the university, as well as numerous Coaches of the Year awards, including this year as Coach of the Year in Division II baseball. For the first time, a local or a tri-state Division II team made it to the College World Series, and it was definitely a offensive struggle to get there, but you made it. It was great, and I appreciate you representing Erie in doing this. Coach, I'd like to give you this to honor you and your team. I know you've had a great success with Mercyhurst, as well as many of your coaches and players. I know a lot of the players have gone home for the summer, but we definitely wanted to recognize you for being part of our city, and I believe you had regionals here before the World Series, which was also an asset to our community. If you would please say a few words.
Thank you very much, City Council. We're honored to receive this. Very proud of our team, our coaches, our staff, our administration. Most proud to be part of the City of Erie, and to host the regional here was just an overwhelming honor. And we are extremely grateful for all the support from the Erie Seawolves, their incredible grounds crew, the Convention Center Authority, Scott Enterprise, everyone who just sacrificed. It was a grueling 4 or 5 days. Games ended at 2 o'clock in the morning, and everyone was right back the next day. So very proud to be part of the city, and we're just overwhelmed with feedback on what a great experience it was for all the teams. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you for representing Erie. Great job. Say hi to the councilman, and thank you.
Thanks. Congratulations.
Great job. Thank you. Congratulations. Thanks for being here. Thank you. Thank you, and again, congratulations, and thank you for being here today. We'll move on to requests for repository sales. Is anyone here to represent a repository sale today? Is there anyone here for repository sale this evening? And final call, is there anyone here for repository sales? Hearing none, we will now move on to citizens be heard, and we do have a person who signed up for to be first to speak. Mr. Randy Barnes, if you'd like to come speak today.
Thank you, President. I'd like to speak every day, but I appreciate the opportunity, Council, Administration, guests. My name is Randy Barnes. My topic tonight is what is free coffee and $81,732. We know that $69,732 of that was what the retired city clerk earned as his annual pension, and the other $12,000 would be what's considered the Friends and Family Plan. But before I get into that Friends and Family Plan, let me just talk about the best we can hope for is our elected officials are good stewards of our tax dollars. That's the best we can hope for. And I think a lot of politicians are elected and they feel that way. And then after some time while they're in the office, they think, well, what if we can help our friends and family? That would be a nice thing to do, wouldn't it, as an elected official, if you can help your friends and family, you either get some money, get some contract, get some position, get some job, or off the taxpayers' back. I think that's what this is a story of. This is good politicians gone bad. Because when I look at this resolution put up by Mr. Winarski and seconded by Mr. Witherspoon, the president at the time, that they wanted to pay retired City Clerk James Clem $12,000 a year, I looked at the four people that voted for that, and the four people voted for that were Mr. Winarski, Mr. Witherspoon, Hiran Kuko, and Mr. Jones. The four politicians with the most amount of years experience as city council members. The four members that had the most amount of years voted for this Friends and Family Plan. They also voted to increase your taxes last year, but they voted first for the Friends and Family Plan last July. The three council people with the least amount of years on serving the public didn't vote for that. In fact, one of the council members said this is a luxury. We can't afford this luxury. To go back before the vote took place, Mr. Witherspoon, the president of City Council, wrote to Mayor Sennett and Solicitor Carley, said he wanted city solicitor to research a legal opinion regarding Mr. Clem's employment as a contractor. Because at the time we wanted Mr. Clem here to train the current and future employees of the city clerk's office for 2 years. Mr. Witherspoon asked for this opinion. Do you know what the opinion was? Well, nobody does, because the city solicitor didn't answer him. The mayor didn't answer him on paper. Nothing was put on paper. We know that the mayor thought this was ridiculous. But here we had the president of City Council, Witherspoon, requesting a legal opinion and never getting one. And again, that doesn't really, if you look at the small print, the Friends and Family Plan, legal opinion, that doesn't mean anything. In the Friends and Family Plan, it's about getting our friends and our family some money back. Because we had a city clerk that was here for 48 years, and when he left, the records were in shambles. But he said for $12,000 a year, I can fix those records. And if you look in the fine print in the Friends and Family Plan, Mr. Winarski, Mr. Witherspoon, Hiran Kunko, and Mr. Jones, they see that doesn't really matter. Because the Friends and Family Plan has no rules. The rules are what these four city council members say they are. Because when you're in the Friends and Family Plan, it's like hitting the jackpot. Because you get paid $1,000 a month to organize some records that you helped get to where they were. You had 48 years in City Hall. What happened in those 48 years that on the day you walked out, Mr. Clem, the records were in shambles? $1,000 a month to fix the records. That's not what it was about. It was about the Friends and Family Plan. Let me repeat, Friends and Family Plan, those same people voted for this, voted to raise your taxes in December. What was it, 6 or 7%? But we have an archivist, because on the Friends and Family Plan, taxes go up, whatever they need to go up. Because our friends and family come first, the taxpayers come third. That's the Friends and Family Plan. If I was a retired city clerk collecting $69,000 and the current city clerk called up and said, I have a question, I'd probably answer that. I wouldn't expect to get paid. There's city clerks in every city in this state. If the city clerk needed some advice, you could have called one of them. We didn't need to spend $12,000 this year and next year for the Friends and Family Plan. Hey, thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other citizens to be heard?
Hello, everyone. Richard Wagner, 42nd and State. 99,542, Erie's population. Let's challenge the census, not ourselves. Co-signing a bond for the parking authority. If they didn't have to give the city $500,000 a year, maybe they could operate at a profit and not have to borrow any money. Our curb cuts. We spend $80,000 on legal fees. Can't we get this simple task right? Sewer backup, 21st and Green Garden. Why is the city fighting what is obviously the city's problem? Celebrate Erie. Is it the finance director's job to find entertainment for this festival? Don't we have a purchasing department? 2 motorcycle clubs were just granted variances to operate private clubs in the city. Pension costs. Jim Barker, the retired superintendent of the Erie School District, is receiving $177,000 a year. No wonder our budgets are out of balance. Mr. Ed Kissel was rewarded by the administration for 25 years of service to the city by a public scolding and dismissal from an MPO board by the mayor. We should celebrate people like Mr. Kissel, not publicly embarrass them. We just moved up to 8th place on the city's losing population at the fastest rate, according to the 2014 census. We lost 0.9% or 857 people. We're tied with Detroit. The shootings on a Sunday afternoon at Roger Young Park during a flag football game is something that every person that lives in Erie should be embarrassed about. How low have we sunk when children can't enjoy themselves without ducking from the sounds of gunfire? As a child, I grew up in the Roger Young projects. It was where many veterans were placed to start their lives over again after being in a war. It was a happy place. It was a fun place. And yes, it was a modest place. But it was still home, and everyone that lived in the projects was thankful to be there. The gray barracks-like buildings are long gone and were replaced with a swimming pool and a football field. But unfortunately, when the barracks were turned down, respect and compassion for others were also lost. As a city, we can't protect ourselves from all the evils that surround us. But it is time for our community to get together and act as one to stop this craziness. I just went over about 3 weeks' worth of headlines. I didn't bother to include the shootings, home invasions, and muggings that have become commonplace in Erie, Pennsylvania. It appears that none of us are really safe from the violence. Tonight on your agenda, I can't help but notice that the school district, which we didn't partner with, lost their case in court against St. Vincent's Hospital, challenging a reassessment. On your agenda, we are restating the value of St. Vincent's properties for the calendar year 2013, 14, and 15 to about $34.5 million. The old assessment was for $50 million, which if they didn't have a pilot program would have generated $1.65 million in taxes. But since in 2012 they were covered by a pilot program, they paid $825,000 in property taxes. Now, after the loss by the school district and the reduction in the assessed value of the property, I can only assume by the way this ordinance is written that for 2013, 14, and 15, using the new assessments, which will generate $573,000 a year, that the 3 taxing bodies have lost $750,000 in revenue over the last 3 years. The vagueness of this resolution surprises me. Is the reduction retroactive? Are you ready to accept the losses? Are you prepared for Hammett, which is following the same process as St. Vincent, to win a reduction in their assessment? A casual reading of this resolution would never leave the reader to understand the enormous consequences of what has happened. I suppose in the caucus room, this was all laid out for you. And as I was told one time by Councilman Jones, that the information they receive would just overwhelm a layperson. Well, here's one layperson who would like more information, because you see, we do not understand what is going on and don't like it. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other citizens to be heard today?
Good evening, Councilman.
Good evening.
I'm Mike Donald. My property is 19th and Reed. You know that block grant money? I always thought that it was to help people that their property was need renovation. And I don't hear telling none of them getting any of that money. Y'all take that money and spend it like you wanna. What is it supposed to be used for? Can anybody tell me? I guess y'all don't either. Y'all don't know either, huh? You know, when y'all went on council, you took an oath. That oath didn't mean too much to you, because I can't see where you're using it anywhere. That oath is honor. You're supposed to be honorable people. I don't see it nowhere. What did you do for the peoples last year? I mean, you're on council up there, and I'm sure there are people come to you and make suggestions. Of course, y'all don't want to hear nobody's suggestions. Y'all know just what we need, and you don't know what you need. So how do you know what we need? You should ask us. We're not kids. I'm not one anyway, because I'm an old man. And if you listen to some of the things I said, you do better. You sleep better at night. I'm nobody's guinea pig. I don't know much, but what I know, I know. And I can see farther than my nose. You should have town hall meetings and ask the people's what they want, but y'all don't seem to care what they want. That garbage bill was out there. You jumped up and fee. The proper thing to have done was to go out there and collect instead of upping fees, but that's the easiest thing to do. Now you got these different things down on the bayfront down there, tax-free. When they don't pay taxes, you're putting the taxes on the back of the property owners. I'm telling you, you're about to break their backs. You need to sit down and think things over and have somebody to talk to you, because you don't seem to know what you're doing. And that's too bad. Look, if you don't listen to somebody, you're headed for trouble. I'm looking at these centers. That little money they got won't even hardly pay to cut the grass. What did you do for the kids this summer? Did you get them any money for the summer jobs? Did you get them any money for the summer jobs? Because I'm telling you, if you don't keep those, if you don't keep them kids busy, you're going to have problems. And it won't be their fault. It'll be your fault. Yours in the administration. Kids are kids. They want some money. And they'd rather work for it. Believe me, they'd rather work for it. They don't want you to give them nothing. If you gave it to them, you're giving them our money. It ain't none of yours. If you can't find no jobs, give them some money anyway. Everybody else is getting theirs. It don't make sense to me. Our kids mean something. They mean something to me if they don't mean nothing to you. Those kids need some money. Y'all better do something. Or you're going to have a problem that you can't solve. I hear there was shooting today over on West 18th Street, somewhere out through there. Those kids, they got guns. The police got guns, them kids got guns. I'm just surprised that there haven't been more shootings. Just about anyone you lay your eyes on, they got a gun. I don't have one. I need one, though. I need one. It's a shame. When I was coming up, we didn't have these problems. We didn't have these problems. These problems are created by our so-called leaders. I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any other citizens to be heard? Good afternoon.
My name is Mary Helen Lindsay. And I'm
Where's your address? If you could give us your address also, please.
1140 East 30th.
Okay, thank you.
I'm here to talk about the curfew that they have for those kids. I think we asked them for trouble with that curfew. I myself and a lot of more parents feel that these children from 11 to 15 should be on their own resident, at their own resident by 8 o'clock, the rest by 10. When we say the kids can be out till 12 o'clock, that's the next day. Some of them gonna go home and some of them ain't. Now, Lord knows I got some great grandkids need to be at home. I know there's a different time. A lot of people looking at, well, the times has changed. They have. But we can't raise our kids by going by the time change. The time changed, these kids got guns, and they're going to use them. But if they was at home, the parents could see what's going on. 10 o'clock at night, what is a child going to be on the street at 10 o'clock at night for? What they going to do? Looking for trouble? I think y'all need to look at that again. And that's why I'm here. I got so upset over, I called him Bob. I've been knowing him for a long time. I called him at work the other day. I said, this don't make no sense. I know time have changed, but when my children, I was raising my kids, the street lights on, they was at home. But we got to do something, keep these kids off of the street. Y'all need to look at that again. Now, we put y'all in office, and that's what I'm expecting y'all to do, is help somebody raise their children and go, I can raise mine. So that's why I'm here tonight, to beg and asking y'all, please look at that curfew again. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, excuse me, could we have your name again? We didn't get your full name.
Mary Helen Lindsay.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. Are there any other citizens to be heard? Any other citizens to be heard? Hearing none, Ms. Roby, if we continue with the rest of the meeting.
All right, ordinances for final passage. Council File 15921, official ordinance number 19, 2015. An ordinance appropriating the sum of $604,751 from unappropriated and anticipated revenue to be received from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development for the Home M15 projects. By Mr. Kwiatkowski and second by Mr. Winarski, that council file ordinance bill number 15921, and now known as official file ordinance number 19, 2015, be finally passed by the City Council. Mr. Kwiatkowski, Mr. Mursky, Mr. Winarski, Mr. Witherspoon, Mr. Brennan. City Council passed official file ordinance number 19, 2015 by yeas 5. Council file number 15922, official ordinance number 20, 2015. An ordinance appropriating the sum of $254,036 from unappropriated and anticipated revenue to be received from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development for the Emergency Solutions Grant ESG 15 projects. By Mr. Kwiatkowski and seconded by Mr. Winarski, that council file ordinance bill number 15922, and now known as official file ordinance number 20, 2015, be finally passed by the City Council. Mr. Kwiatkowski, Mr. Mursky, Mr. Winarski, Mr. Witherspoon, Mr. Brennan. City Council passed official file ordinance number 20, 2015 by yeas 5, nays 0. Council file 15923, official ordinance number 21, 2015. An ordinance appropriating the sum of $2,806,751 from unappropriated and anticipated revenue to be received from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, $130,016.62, reprogram funds from previous community development block grant years, and $25,776.38 program income, for a total of $2,962,544 for the fiscal year 2015 projects. By Mr. Kwiatkowski and seconded by Mr. Winarski, the council file ordinance bill number 15923, and now known as official file ordinance number 21, 2015, be finally passed by the City Council. Mr. Kwiatkowski, Mr. Mursky, Mr. Winarski, Mr. Witherspoon, Mr. Brennan. City Council passed official file ordinance number 20, 2015 by yeas 5, nays 0.
Pittsburgh, 15. UPMC.
Ordinances for first reading. Council file number 15924. An ordinance appropriating the sum of $111,728 from unappropriated and anticipated revenue and providing for the expenditure thereof, 2015 Insurance Fraud Prevention Authority. By Mr. Kwiatkowski and seconded by Mr. Winarski, that council file ordinance number 15924, having been read, is hereby adopted on first reading by the City Council. Mr. Kwiatkowski, Mr. Mursky, Mr. Winarski, Mr. Witherspoon, Mr. Brennan. City Council read and adopt council file ordinance number 15924 by yeas 5, nays 0 on first reading.
Thank you.
That'll take us into new business.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to move the balance of the agenda.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. Do we have any separations? Any separations? I do have a separation, hearing none from the rest of the council. Number 7 in the new business, please, if we could separate that item out and vote on the balance. 7 in new business.
Okay, then voting on moving the balance of the agenda, Mr. Kwiatkowski, Mr. Mursky, Mr. Winarski, Mr. Witherspoon, Mr. Brennan. You just want me to read this and then have discussion?
Yes, please.
Okay. By Mr. Winarski and seconded by Mr. Witherspoon, resolved by the Council of the City of Erie that the proper city officials are hereby authorized to ratify a joint petition for approval of tax appeal settlement in connection with the city's pilot agreement with St. Vincent Health Center at Erie County docket number 13725-2012. The petition sets the fair market value of St. Vincent Health Center properties for assessment purposes as follows. 2013, $35,500,000, 14, $35,500,000, and 2015, $34,500,000. Discussion?
Is there any discussion or comment from any member of council on this item? I will be abstaining from this when we do the vote, and the reason being I'm currently doing, for my architecture firm that I work for, we're currently doing work for Vincent, so I will abstain from a vote on this resolution to avoid a conflict of interest. I don't think there's any more discussion, if you want to take the vote.
Okay, roll call. Mr. Kwiatkowski, Mr. Mursky, Mr. Winarski, Mr. Witherspoon, Mr. Brennan abstains.
Abstain, thank you.
This resolution will pass by a vote of 4-0, 2 zeros. And that will take us to committee reports, Mr. President.
Mr. Kwiatkowski, would you like to go your report first, please?
Okay. It'll be rather quick. I attended the police pension meeting, and the funds are progressing very well. The fund actually made money last month again, and nothing new to report. And I'd like to say that it was my pleasure on behalf of council and the city to attend the June 6th celebration of D-Day at the Erie Explosion football game, where it was a privilege to be able to chat with at least 9, we were expecting 11, but judging by their age, to get 9 gentlemen that were there at either Omaha or Utah Beach on D-Day was quite a pleasure, and it was a real experience. You learn a lot from those gentlemen. I don't know if any of us would have done that, what they did, come off a boat into the hail of machine gun fire and free a country that they had no vested interest in, just to free the free world, basically. And they did a nice job. The Erie Explosion, we were the recipient of a visit by the French consul, Jean, well, I forgot his last name, but he was, I had the pleasure of talking to him. He's very impressed with Erie. He actually had dinner at Bertrand's restaurant, the Cloud 9. He was very pleased with Erie, and he's been a visitor before. And just listen to him talk about the love of the French people, to give one gentleman the Legion of Merit medal from the Republic of France was a pleasure and an honor which I will not soon forget. And I would like to thank the mayor's office also for allowing me to represent him that night. And just a final note. It's getting to be every time you open up the paper now or listen to the media, there's bad news on the horizon. And it's getting to be that this council, and I know I speak for this councilman only, but I have a feeling that much of council agrees with me that, listening to the consultants and the people that have come and addressed us in the last month, and then to read in the paper that we're now number 8 on the fastest shrinking cities. And this week I'm going to be going to Allentown, which is the opposite, one of the fastest growing cities. It's kind of sad because as a young man, I remember when we were still 130,000, we were relevant. All new things came to Erie. You don't see much coming here now. It's almost to the point that people expect there to be gunplay, and they don't see the bright side sometimes. Oh, they come in here for our Celebrate Erie, and they come in for our beer fest, but then they go out to their houses outside the city. And it's starting to get a little scary, and I know there's going to come a time when some council, and I hope it's this one, sits down and says, it's our turn, and if not us, who? If not now, when? We're going to have to take giant steps to start turning the city around. I mean, I hate to look in a paper and be compared to Detroit. Not that Detroit's a fine city, but I don't want to be on the decline. At one time this was a growing community. Now we're finding out we're the 8th on the list, and that's not. In Flint, I think was number 11 or 12, and Flint's been in decline for years. So we have to start turning things around. It's going to take a lot of political courage, And for some of us, it may cost us our jobs. And I'm perfectly willing to start the process, and it's going to be very painful, but if we do nothing, that's not a pleasant picture. I think this is a great city, and I think it can be again. I'm not looking at it with blinders and saying, everything's rosy, because it's not. And we have to find a way to, once again, get people to move back in the city, have businesses open up things here, and not be the other way around. I'm tired of hearing about, we're good enough to have the 5th and 6th wards do business in Mill Creek and Harbor Creek, but not good enough to get even an IHOP restaurant to open up in Erie or any kind of business. That has to stop. And we as a city, we have to start taking measures, however painful, to start cleaning up the landlords that don't live here, or the property owners that aren't doing what they're supposed to do. And it's going to be very painful, and maybe for some of us, not pleasant, but we cannot no longer afford to just sit around and watch the decline. And I, for one, I don't want to be part of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kwiatkowski. Mr. Winarski.
Thank you, President. No reports tonight. I'd just like to welcome back one of the city employees who had an unfortunate and just very unexpected illness roughly around 2 years ago, Kelly Myers. She worked up in the special events office, and she had, like I said, unfortunate and unexpected illness, and she's back with the city after 2 years. I just want to welcome her back from myself and my colleagues on council, and way to be strong and tough and hang in there, and welcome back. Take care.
Thank you, Mr. Winarski. Mr. Murski.
Thank you, Mr. President. A few things to report. First, I just wanted to correct one of the speakers. The Convention Center Authority, he is correct, they don't pay property taxes, but they did make $500,000, $512,000 in payments to the city last year. $512,000. So, I mean, to say they're not paying anything is not factually accurate. So I just wanted to point that out, as do some of our other authorities. The Housing Authority gives us money, Parking Authority gives us money, so there is revenue coming in from these authorities. A couple things that I've done. I attended the neighborhood watch for the Snoops Watch down by St. Stan's. They have that Elm Street grant, and one of the things that they're doing down in that neighborhood is they are installing, free of charge to neighbors who want them, motion detection LED lights on the fronts and backs of their houses, especially the ones that live in alleyways, to increase lighting in that area. So that's a good thing. And also, I was just really impressed with the organization of their neighborhood watch. They're very unified. Their meetings run very smoothly, and they have good organization skills down there. They're really a model for the rest of our neighborhoods to follow. On Saturday, I attended the bicycle safety event at Piper Burley School. It was an event for young people in Erie. They could get a free helmet, and it was from Project Safe Kids, I believe, and Representative Ryan Bizzaro and myself went down, and it was very good. There were many kids attended, and they, like I said, they received free bicycle helmets for participating in that event. I also went to the Erie's 40 Under 40 event. This is the third year they've done it. 120 young people under the age of 40 in this community doing positive things, doing good things. They're not all doing big things, but not everyone has to do big things. Sometimes little things make a big difference in the neighborhood where you are or in the location that you're at. And so it was very, it warmed my heart. It was a very positive event and a very enthusiastic event. It makes me very hopeful for the future of Erie to see these young people committed to staying here. And just a few other things. Parks Department Summer Rec has started. It was on television. If you haven't seen, the tennis started. Floodlight Theaters is starting, I believe. And also, the Sounds of Summer started. I went to the first two concerts, and the people that go to it, it's not just senior citizens. I think the misconception is just senior citizens go to the Sounds of Summer. But anybody can go, and We saw Jim Moore, he was the Elvis impersonator last week, and very entertaining at St. Mary's Home in the parking lot there. So if you get a chance, check those out. They're good. And the paving, I went out today, and on Green Garden, our crew was paving 26th through 32nd in Green Garden, various spots, and I wanted to get an idea of what our streets department does. And let me just tell you that our streets crew are top-notch individuals. When I saw everybody, it's like a beehive of activity. Everyone's just doing their own little thing, and I want to thank the supervisor, Jeff Gibbons, for allowing me to tail him and kind of see what goes on in our city department, our streets department. And these are the same guys. They work streets paving during the summer, then they plow in the wintertime. So there's always something to do, because we know it snows here, and we know there's roads to be paved all the time. So they do a good job, and I'll put them up against any contracted work any day of the week. And finally, just to let people know, there was the shooting in front of the firehouse on East Avenue, and I've been working with the East Avenue Task Force. And one of the things that I want to talk to my colleagues about and start a conversation with the mayor's office and administration is getting cameras on our public buildings. If we're asking our downtown to put cameras on, if we had a shooting at Roger Young Park, we have a facility there, we could put a camera on the building. It's not going to stop everything, but if it prevents something, or if it helps the police get the investigation going, it's worth the investment. We don't have to do it all at once. We can do it as the money comes in or as grant funding is available. I'm not asking to take it to the taxpayers and foot them with the bill. But we need to start having that conversation about if it's good enough for City Hall, it should be good enough for our neighborhoods. So we have cameras on this building. We should have them on all our buildings to help with those investigations. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Mr. Weatherspoon?
Thank you, Mr. President. First of all, I would like to say that I received a call, a second call, about parking on East 20th Street. Miss Griffin, 1146 East 20th. Her neighbor, who just moved in maybe a couple of years ago, have 8 types of vehicles, 2 motorcycles, a camper that they pull by with their truck, the truck itself, and 2 or 3 cars. And every time she moved her car from in front of her house, they put either the 2 bikes there or back the trailer up. And she's very, very tired and upset about that. And I brought it to our attention at the last meeting that we need to look into permit parking in the neighborhoods similar to what they have in the St. Vincent area. I believe it's on 25th between Myrtle and the next street going west. She was very, very upset, and I just don't want it to blow out of proportion and then we react. So I'm asking our legal department to take a look and see what we can do. I will also check with the parking authority. They may have some input in that type of parking. And she said she's willing to pay $100 a year if that need be the case. But she just wants someplace to park. She go to the store, she come back, she don't have a spot. And to have 7 or 8 vehicles and just taking up the whole street. And East 20th Street in that area is a very narrow street anyway. Just want to bring that to our attention. A gentleman was at our meeting about the Veterans Stadium and the steps. I brought that to the attention of the Stadium Commission, and they are looking into it. I believe they may be grandfathered in. Yes, they are out of code, but they may be grandfathered in. So I'm waiting for a written report from the Stadium Commission on that, and I'll get that to you when I can. The Summer Basketball League will be starting July 6th. Right now, we have 63 young men in the age group of 9 and 10. And in the age group of 11 and 12, 13 and 14, we have 141. And in 15, 16, we have 32. So it's around 200, 100 and, what's that? No, 200 plus, 236. And these are individuals that their parents sign them up online through the website. And I know they're going to be another 75 the day of the first game wanting to sign up. And I plan to be tough this year. That my crew tell me I'm tough every year, and I wind up getting more T-shirts. But it's going good. On June 22nd, I believe that's next Monday, I do a biddy camp, 12 noon to 2 o'clock, 5 days, and the age group is 6, 7, 8, and early 9. And this year, I'm not sure who from the administration is going to show, but 2 years ago, the mayor came out. We played a quick game. The mayor won. I let him win. But I did try to beat him, but he made it. Last year, fire chief came out. He got lucky, too. So
You're not inviting
maybe
us.
they'll send Jill out. I can hit over the elbow.
Mr. Witherspoon, you're not inviting us, I take it.
But summer is here. Kids are out. Police department, same as last year, will give us a couple of officers. They did deter a lot of activities last year, as well as the DA detective was there. So we do thank them for their support. Mr. President, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Witherspoon. Jill, do we have a report from the
I
administration
have
today?
no report for the administration, but Mr. Witherspoon, if I'm guaranteed a win, maybe I can show up on Monday as well. We'll have to check my calendar, though.
Thank you. I do have a couple things I wanted to talk about. I attended the Jefferson Education Society lecture, Is Erie Safe? It was definitely informative to hear the panelists, different points of view on public safety. The problems were discussed, the possible solutions were discussed. It was very informative. I definitely learned something from what was presented at the lecture. But I do know, to kind of build upon what Mr. Kwiatkowski had said, public safety is definitely crucial to our future of our city. No one wants to live in a city or invest or visit a city that's unsafe, so we definitely have to continue to work on this, and something needs to be done. We need to gain the trust of victims and witnesses that routinely don't cooperate with the police and law enforcement. Oftentimes, we always talk about more policing. It's not always the answer. I really think that, focusing on different programs to educate, support, and give hope to at-risk youth. So it's definitely something that we need to continue to work on, and definitely it's something that affects everything in our city. So it's a very important topic that we're going to continue to try to work with. I also want to report, we had a council study session last week with the Emerge 2040, formerly Destination Erie. We reviewed the recommendations, and a PowerPoint was given, kind of give more explanation about certain aspects of the recommendations. And we kind of talked about what's going to happen in the future, how the plan rolls out. So we're definitely going to continue to try to work together to work on some of these recommendations and challenges, because it's really up to us. No one's going to do it for us. I also want to report the the Larry Fabrizi Dog Park, the road work equipment work installation continues. We don't have an opening date set yet, but we're going to be that'll be occurring sometime soon, maybe by the end of this month. It's currently being used. I know that many people have gone out there to start using that the park, and I want to kind of continue to credit all the people that were involved in putting that together, the Burton Deal Neighborhood Watch, Neighborhood Association, Lake Erie Regional Conservancy, Mercer's University, the City of Erie. Their crews have done a great job in putting that together and really making it a special place. Lastly, I wanted to report on the progress of the City of Erie Comprehensive Plan. Just a few notes to kind of keep everybody apprised of what's going on there. By the way, there's a steering committee and advisory committee, and all the committees are definitely encouraged to get the public involved and keep everybody informed. There is no public meeting set yet, but that's going to be set soon. As soon as I know those dates, I'll let people know. But we're starting on the plan outline. The major challenges of the city are being discussed, reviewed. Different employment and diversity issues we're talking about with different companies and trying to see what a mix of different companies is what we should have, kind of that discussion. We talk about incentives for trying to get more development in the city. Raising revenue is a big issue in our city to try to leverage that revenue with private investment. And again, this is building upon the Emerge 2040 plan. With that, that's my report, and we will end the meeting. Thank you so much.
City Council adjourns at 8:25 p.m. Mr. Brennan, Mr. Kwiatkowski, Mr. Mursky, Mr. Winarski, Mr. Witherspoon.